Okay, I want to welcome in again everyone looking in on social media, on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are, whenever you are looking in. I want to welcome you into Unity Prosperity Ocean International every Sunday, 9 a.m. Central Time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for looking in. Thank you so much for sharing this with other people that may be looking for some spiritual nourishment. Let's dive in. We're wrapping up the month of February, taking a unique look at love. And I am going to start a few things here for myself. So, the question has been, what would I love? What would I love? All this month we've been asking, what would I love? What would you love? And it's our theme question really for this whole month. And each week this month, we've focused on the idea of living a life we love and loving the life we live. Mm. And we've done this in a variety of ways. And today, this last day of the month, the last day in our series anyway, we're going to let love shine forth. Because as we let love shine forth, we not only experience a life we love living, but we attune our hearts to the divine heart and feel God's never ceasing love in, through, as and around us. So I want to spend our time together today looking at a few ways we can let love shine forth. Charles Fillmore, in Talks on Truth, wrote, love is in the world in a diluted form as affection between husband and wife, parents and children, friend and friend, but it can be made manifest in its original strength and purity by each man and woman's opening the fountainhead and letting its mighty current stream forth. Now, I love the idea behind that quote that love can be made manifest in the world in its original strength and purity when we open the fountainhead and let its mighty current stream forth. But that idea begs a question, doesn't it? How, in fact, do we open the fountainhead? What does that even mean, really? So we probably all have different perceptions and ideas of uh, uh, and answers to that question. And some would say it takes a lifetime of spiritual practice for us to do that. Others would say we have to have a personal, mystical experience of feeling God's love before we can do that. And others might say we have to reach spiritual enlightenment before we can do that. And those things may all be correct for all those that believe that is the way, but I want to suggest something you can do right now and do it today. Right here, right now. I want to suggest three three tangible, practical ways to open the fountainhead and let the purity and strength of love's mighty currents stream forth from you, or to let the love shine forth. These three ways were found in an article in the February 2014, about 10 years ago, Science of Mind magazine called Reviving the Heart of Humanity with a New CPR by religious science minister, friend of mine, colleague, and author Dennis Merritt Jones. It really inspired me. He wrote, Mending the Heart of Humanity, or for our context, we could say opening the fountainhead. Mending the heart of humanity sounds like a daunting task. But if we are willing to be proactive and act mindfully rather than react mindlessly or hopelessly, can be revived. We must each become experts at administering spiritual CPR to every person with whom we cross paths on a daily basis. This includes our face to face encounter, both intentional and by chance, as well as the countless people we may connect with via the internet or see on television while watching the world news. Distance does not matter because we all share the same name, human beings. We all share the same heart, end quote. And I want to suggest that when he says we must each become experts at administering spiritual CPR to every person with whom we cross paths on a daily basis, we must include ourselves in this mix. All right. So here's the CPR C, compassion. So, what exactly is compassion? I like what Dennis says. Dennis Merritt Jones says, or defines it this way. He says, compassion is the capacity to imagine what it must feel like to live in another person's skin and take appropriate action to help alleviate suffering when possible. Now, that's a good definition, and one I believe that is innate in all life, human and non-human. Here was an amazing scientific study done in Canada to see if rats had empathy and compassion for one another. And my friends, they do. Listen to this. In this study, some of the rats were caged while others were in a very large enclosure, basically free and running around. Researchers watched what the free rats did for a month's time and found that they kept liberating the caged rats. They figured out how to open the latch and kept letting them out over an entire month, which the researchers said ruled out simple curiosity as a motivation. What's more, the free rats would liberate the caged rats even when the trapped animals exited into a separate cage, which showed that the free rat wasn't simply seeking the reward of schmoozing with its friend. The free rats also freed the caged rats, even when they had the option of bumping open an identical container and obtaining 5 chocolate chips for themselves, which showed that their motivation to help was greater than their desire for a tasty treat. If that quality is innate in rats, then it must be innate in us as well. I love what Ernest Holmes says about this. He says, compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. Compassion is the most gentle of all human virtues, for it is the outpouring of the divine givingness through all. Here's a beautiful true story of the power of compassion. One day, a poor boy who was selling goods from door to door to pay his way through school found he only had one thin dime left to his name and he was hungry. He decided he would ask for a meal at the next house rather than try to sell his goods. However, he lost his nerve when a very lovely young woman opened the door. Instead of a meal, he asked for a drink of water. She thought he looked hungry, so she brought him a large glass of milk. He drank it slowly and then asked, how much do I owe you? You don't owe me anything, she replied. Mother has taught us never to accept payment for a kindness. He said, then I thank you from my heart. As Howard Kelly left that house, he not only felt stronger physically, but his faith in God and humanity was strong also. He had been ready to give up and quit, but now he was fortified. Years later, that same woman became critically ill. The local doctors were baffled. They finally sent her to the big city in Baltimore, where they called in specialists to study her rare disease. Dr. Howard Kelly was called in for the consultation. When he heard the name of the town she came from, a strange light filled his eyes. Immediately, he rose and went down the hall to her hospital room. Dressed in his doctor's gown, he went in to see her. Although she was older, he recognized her at once. He went back to the consultation room, determined to do his best to save her life. From that day forward, he gave special attention to the case. After a long struggle, the battle was won. Dr. Kelly requested that the business office pass the final bill to him for approval. He looked at it, then wrote something on the edge, and the bill was sent to her room. She feared to open it, for she was sure it would take the rest of her life to pay for. Finally, she looked, and something caught her in the throat when she read these words. It said, "Paid in full with one glass of milk." Signed, Dr. Howard Kelly. Now, isn't that a beautiful story of compassion? Well, too bad it's not entirely true. It's been embellished from the true story to tug at our heartstrings. And it did, didn't it? But so does the true story. Here's what is true according to his biography written by Audrey Davis. She says, on a walking trip up through northern Pennsylvania one spring, Kelly stopped by a small farmhouse for a drink of cool spring water. The little girl answered his knock and instead of water brought him a glass of fresh milk. After a short, friendly visit, he went on his way. Some years later, that same girl came to him for an operation. Just before he left for home, her bill was brought into the room, and across its face was written in bold handwriting, paid in full with one glass of milk. Dr. Kelly was never an impoverished student who had to sell door to door to put himself through medical school. Rather, he was the son of a well to do family. On the day described in the milk anecdote, he did not find himself with only one thin dime and was hungry. And there is no account that he decided he would ask for a meal at the next house rather than try to sell his goods. The Davis biography of Dr. Kelly contains no mention of the girl being critically ill or of her local doctors being baffled, of her being sent to Baltimore because of falling victim to a rare disease. None of that. In fact, nothing is said of her case to indicate that it was at all unusual or that her life was in any way in jeopardy, other than for Dr. Kelly's writing off her bill for that long ago glass of milk. Her case was not remarkable in the least. So, why is this a true story of compassion? Dr. Kelly, in his regular practice, charged significant fees for his work with patients who could afford it, but used those fees to underwrite the medical care he provided free of charge to the less fortunate. By his conservative estimate, he neither sought nor received a fee in 75% of his cases. And for years, he paid the salary of a nurse to visit and care for those of his patients who could not otherwise afford such treatment, providing them both a doctor and a nurse without charge. Now, I would say that is true, no frills compassion. All right, let's move along. P, now to the P in our CPR. Henry Drummond, in The Greatest Thing in the World, commented on the beautiful passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7, that I think most of you may know, but I'll recite it anyway. It's the passage that says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy. Love is never boastful, not conceited nor rude. It is not self-seeking nor easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongdoing. It does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, trusts, hopes, and preserves. There are three things that last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. About this scripture quote, Drummond wrote, love is patience. This is the normal attitude of love. Love, passive. Love, waiting to begin, not in a hurry, calm, ready to do its work when the summons comes, but in the meantime, wearing the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. Love suffers long, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, for love understands and therefore waits. Opening the fountainhead occurs when we call on love, which is patiently waiting. We call on love by realizing and revealing the presence of God in the present moment. Oh, but how impatient we can be, right? Waiting for a computer to turn on or to restart or all those updates to finish, right? Waiting for a light to change or waiting for our partner to arrive when he or she is late, waiting for our spiritual growth to show results in the world, waiting for the world to become a better place. How impatient can we be? Dennis Merritt Jones writes, patience is the ability to breathe and be with what is in the moment. Trusting that as we continue to mindfully mend our own hearts one day at a time, the collective heart of humanity is also mending. The practice is to be patient with ourselves and all others, remembering that it can take time to mend a broken heart, especially one that belongs to 7 billion human beings. All right. Finally, the R for reverence, going through our spiritual CPR. The R is for reverence. To practice reverence is to look past the form and see the sacred presence of God in, as, and through all things. To practice reverence is to remember that there really is only one of us here. In the Science of Mind big book that I like to study, it says, God in me is unified with God in all. I am one with all people, with all things, with all life. As I listen in the silence, this voice of all humanity speaks to me and answers the love that I hold out to it. I am one with life. I wait in the silence while the Great Spirit hears this message to the whole world. We don't open the fountainhead by forcing something or someone, even ourselves, to change. It actually comes from I call it reverential awe. Really, it really comes from that reverence and loving what is. We open the fountainhead when we hold for ourselves and for others, hold all of us in the same awe and appreciation we feel when we look at something beautiful, like the beauty we see in nature, the awe and the majesty of creation when we look at a mountain or an ocean. For each of us is beautiful in a profound way. In that Science of Mind article, Dr. I think he is a doctor now. I keep referring to him as doctor. I think it's Reverend Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones. Anyway, he says, contained within the wisdom of this awareness lies the potential for the healing of the heart of humanity. How could we possibly conspire to do harm to another when we see ourselves and the living presence of the divine in that person? Here's one more real life example. This is a brief real life example, couple of sentences of someone combining compassion, patience, and reverence, CPR, to let love shine forth from him. This is a letter from a prison inmate named Leo Wright. He writes, I'm going to tell you something that I want you to always remember. I'm going to make you very proud of me. Somehow I am going to reach the hearts of every inmate in this place. At least I'm going to die trying. Like Martin Luther King Jr., that is my dream. Though Dr. King phrased it in his famous speech as a dream, he was really promoting leaving a better world in which everyone was equal and free. How was he able to do this? Simply put, he saw, felt, heard, smelled, lived, and breathed a different reality in his mind than most other people at that time. The power of his vision convinced millions of the justness of his cause. So, on that same note, I see, feel, hear, smell, live, and breathe a different reality in my mind for the people that society has regarded as unchangeable. Please don't get me wrong. I do understand that society is not to blame. Most of us made the choice not to choose love over fear. But like I said to you before, I would like to apply for the job of showing these guys that love is the way to freedom. Well, that inmate Leo has decided to do this by becoming a New Thought minister while he serves the remaining many years of his sentence. How white, how might we be like Leo, giving compassion, patience, and reverence to the world? In this way, we open up our fountainhead and let love's mighty currents stream forth from us, stream forth as us, stream forth around us and through us. I invite you to move into prayer time with me as we wrap up our session for today and we close out this month of February when we've had the spotlight on love. Dear God, my prayer today is for your goodness to shine forth in my life. I pray for guidance, for wisdom, and for illumination. I want to make wise, inspired decisions that bring your goodness through me so that I can bless myself and everyone in my life. I pray that I follow a path that leads ever onward and upward. I pray that I make my own unique and special contribution to life. To accomplish my aims, I need your goodness. I pray for enlightenment and divine direction. Dear God, help me to separate love and light from the darkness of worry and fear, and to pay no attention to negativity of any kind. Help me to keep my thought and energy focused on all that is supportive, productive, and worthwhile in my life. Keep my mind stayed on your holy, sacred, divine presence. Keep my feet on the path of your goodness, dear God, trusting in your goodness, surrendering to your goodness. Dear God, give me the good judgment this day to take worthwhile actions. May my every word and action be divinely directed, divinely inspired, and rooted and grounded in divine love. Excuse me. May I walk in the radiance of your goodness and light filled presence always. In the name and through the power of the indwelling Christ. Amen. And as always, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. I want to invite everyone in our Zoom room, and you can do that too. Just get on our newsletter. It's got the link and the password in there, and you can join us behind the curtain, so to speak, every week. Hang on here in Zoom for just a moment while we close out our social media broadcasts for today, reminding you that 7 days a week I come at you with morning inspiration in the early morning hours. You can just go to the Facebook page, Unity Prosperity, and catch that 7 days a week. And always right here, Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. And then once this is complete, uploaded to our YouTube channel. I want to thank you for being with us today, and I wish for you all an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you. Hang on here, Zoom folks, while I press a couple of buttons and come on back to you.